The galaxy was dying. Stars that once shone brightly were now little more than cold, distant lights in the darkness. Entire planets were lifeless, reduced to charred ruins after centuries of war. The alien empires that had once ruled with pride were now locked in endless battles, each trying to claim the remains of what was left. Civilization had crumbled, and hope seemed like a word long forgotten. On the edge of the ruined core, a human warship floated silently among the wreckage of destroyed fleets. It was called the Aegis, and though it was just a single ship in a sea of devastation, it carried the last spark of humanity's will to survive. Captain Ilara Voss stood on the bridge, her eyes scanning the dark expanse beyond the viewscreen. Her crew moved with precision, their training evident in every action. But even they could not hide the tension in their faces. Humans were outnumbered everywhere, scattered across the galaxy, and the alien fleets that hunted them were relentless. "This sector is empty," said Lieutenant Kale, the ship's navigator. "No signs of survivors, except for debris fields." Ilara's jaw tightened. "Debris means life lost, Kale. That is the cost of waiting too long. We cannot let it continue." She turned to the rest of her crew. "We have one chance to make a difference. One ship, one crew, and one plan. If we fail—" Her voice trailed off, but no one needed her to finish. Failure was not an option. Humanity had survived worse, but now the survival of billions rested on their shoulders. The Aegis was not like any other human ship. It carried experimental technology, some salvaged from ancient alien ruins. Some developed secretly on Earth before the collapse. Its engines could accelerate faster than any known vessel of its size. Its shields were adaptive, and its weapons were capable of precise, devastating strikes. But even with all this, Ilara knew that skill alone would not be enough. The aliens had numbers, and numbers mattered. Suddenly, the viewscreen flickered. A massive formation appeared on the edge of their sensors. A fleet unlike any Ilara had ever seen. Sleek, dark ships, bristling with weapons, moving with precision and deadly intent. "Zorthak's fleet," Kale whispered. He had fought these aliens before. He knew the stories of their ruthlessness, of entire planets destroyed in hours. They've destroyed everything in their path. Ilara's eyes narrowed. She felt a cold knot in her stomach. Zorthak was the warlord of the Triumvirian Empire, a species known for its brutality. His fleets had conquered star systems, enslaved entire populations, and left nothing behind but death. The fact that he was here meant one thing: humans were not just fighting for survival, they were facing extinction. "Prepare for battle," Ilara said. "But this is not a battle we can fight head-on. We'll need to be clever, smarter than they expect." The Aegis moved silently toward the alien fleet, using the shadows of asteroid belts and debris fields to mask its approach. Ilara's plan was simple but dangerous: infiltrate the fleet, strike at critical points, and escape before the enemy realized what had happened. The humans were few, but they had one advantage: unpredictability. As they approached the fleet, sensors picked up something unusual aboard the Aegis. A small, glowing device, long forgotten in the lower cargo bay, pulsed with energy. It was an alien relic, discovered during a mission years ago, and its purpose had never been fully understood. Now it seemed to resonate with the nearby Triumvirian ships. "Captain, the relic, it's reacting to their presence," Kale said. Ilara studied the readings. "It's a beacon? Or a weapon? We'll find out soon enough." The human ship moved closer. Zorthak's fleet, confident and arrogant, did not notice the lone human vessel threading through their formation. They were sure of victory. After all, one ship could not possibly threaten the might of 1,000 warships. And that arrogance was humanity's edge. The Aegis slipped past the first layer of patrol ships. Its engines hummed quietly, almost invisible against the backdrop of exploding starships in the distance. Every movement was calculated. Every decision mattered. Suddenly, alarms blared. The alien fleet had detected them. Massive ships turned toward the Aegis, weapons charging. The battle was about to begin. "Ilara, they've locked weapons on us!" shouted Kale. Ilara's eyes scanned the view screen. "Then we will make them miss." She pressed a series of buttons, activating the Aegis's experimental shields. Energy flared around the ship, shimmering like liquid metal. Lasers struck the shields, sparking off harmlessly. The crew felt a surge of hope. They had survived the first attack, but they knew it was only the beginning. The aliens pressed forward, their fleet moving as one. Ilara had anticipated this. "Prepare the decoy drones," she ordered. "We'll lead them into the debris field." Small ships launched from the Aegis, each carrying holographic projections of the human warship. The fleet followed the decoys blindly, crashing into asteroids and mines that the humans had set as traps. Explosions lit the void like fireworks, but Ilara's eyes were fixed on the enemy flagship. Zorthak himself commanded it, and she knew that defeating him was key to winning the fight. As they approached the flagship, sensors detected something terrifying. The ship carried a weapon capable of destroying entire planets. A cold sweat ran down Ilara's back. If Zorthak activated it, nothing could stop him. "We cannot let him fire," she said. "Plot a course for the core reactor. That is our only chance." The Aegis moved at impossible speed, weaving through enemy fire, using the alien relic to disrupt targeting systems. The crew worked in perfect harmony, each aware that one mistake could mean the end. Finally, they reached the outer layer of the flagship. Missiles streaked past and energy blasts rocked the human ship, but Ilara pressed on. "Hold steady. Focus fire on the reactor shields." The relic pulsed again, and a wave of energy surged outward, striking the enemy flagship. Systems began to fail, weapons went offline, and alarms blared throughout the enemy fleet. Chaos spread like wildfire. But Zorthak was not defeated yet. His ship moved to intercept the Aegis, and for the first time, Ilara realized just how desperate their position was. "We may not survive this," Kyle said quietly. Ilara's eyes were steel. "We may not, but humanity will. Remember that. Even one ship can make a difference." The Aegis charged forward, preparing for a strike that could change the course of the war. Energy surged through the ship's weapons, targeting the heart of the flagship. Ilara gritted her teeth, knowing that everything depended on precision, courage, and a little bit of luck. And in the darkness of space, as the galaxy seemed to crumble around them, a single human warship prepared to defy impossible odds. The first part of the story ends here with tension high. The Aegis has entered the heart of the enemy fleet, and the fate of humanity hangs in the balance. The galaxy is in ruins, but a spark of hope remains. The Aegis hummed quietly as it drifted among the wreckage of alien warships. Captain Ilara Voss stood on the bridge, her hands gripping the railing as her eyes scanned the view screen. Every flicker of light, every movement, could mean life or death. The first attack had been only the beginning. The galaxy was still in chaos, and Zorthak's fleet was vast, powerful, and ruthless. "Ilara, sensors show multiple energy spikes ahead," Lieutenant Kale reported. "They are regrouping." "They know we are here." Ilara's gaze narrowed. "Then we give them a reason to regret it." She moved toward the tactical console. "Activate the cloaking drive and deploy the decoys. We are going to split their formation." The Aegis was small compared to the alien fleet, but it had one advantage humans always had: creativity. While the Triumvirian ships were massive and powerful, they were predictable. They relied on numbers and brute strength. Humans relied on strategy, improvisation, and courage. That combination had allowed the Aegis to survive its first encounter, and now it would become their weapon. Decoy drones launched from the ship. their holographic projections shining like stars against the void. The alien fleet, overconfident and arrogant, charged toward them without hesitation. Missile volleys and energy beams streaked past the human vessel as it slipped silently through the shadows, moving closer to the flagship. "Ilara, the flagship is maneuvering," Kale shouted. "They are trying to encircle us." "Let them," she said calmly. "That is exactly what we want. Keep the decoys moving and pull the fleet apart. They won't notice the real ship until it's too late." The plan worked better than expected. Alien ships collided with debris, fired upon one another by mistake, and fell into confusion. Small tactical strikes from the Aegis destroyed supply ships and disabled communications, spreading chaos across Zorthak's command. But even as the human ship succeeded in sowing confusion, the stakes were higher than ever. The Triumvirian Empire had built its power on fear and destruction. If they realized that one human ship was capable of this level of disruption, they would stop at nothing to destroy it. "Captain," Kyle said, his voice tense, "I'm detecting an unknown energy reading from the relic." Ilara's eyes flicked toward the cargo bay, where the small device glowed softly. "It's reacting again. Prepare the weapon systems to synchronize with it. I want to see what it can do." The relic had been a mystery for years. Ancient alien technology, unknown in function, had been stored aboard the Aegis as a curiosity. Now, it pulsed with energy that seemed to respond to the alien fleet. Ilara had a feeling that it was more than a curiosity. It was the key to victory. As the Aegis closed in on the flagship, the Triumvirian warlord Zorthak appeared on the view screen. His face was fearsome, scaled, and lined with battle scars, his eyes glowing with cold calculation. "Humans," he hissed, his voice like gravel over metal. "You dare enter my fleet alone? You are fools. Your species will be extinguished." Ilara met his gaze. "We are not fools," she said. "We are human, and humans survive against impossible odds." Zorthak's fleet surged forward. Massive ships flanking the Aegis on all sides. The bridge shook as energy blasts hit the ship's shields, and the crew felt the full weight of the enemy's fury. "Ilara!" Kale shouted. "We can't hold the shields much longer." "I know," she replied calmly. "Prepare the relic synchronization. We are going to strike the core of their flagship directly. It will be dangerous, but we have no choice." The Aegis moved like a shadow, weaving through the chaos. Smaller alien ships fell to carefully aimed shots, while the relic pulsed with increasing energy. The human crew felt a surge of power, as if the device itself was guiding them. "Core reactor in range," Kyle said. "Weapons ready," Ilara nodded. "Fire." Energy beams surged from the Aegis, hitting the flagship's reactor shields. Sparks flew across the view screen as systems began to fail. The aliens' confidence faltered. Zorthak's flagship wavered, its weapons flickering. For the first time, the invincible warlord faced a challenge he had not anticipated. "Deploy boarding drones," Ilara ordered. "If the shields fail, we go inside." The Aegis launched a series of small, agile drones that pierced the flagship's weakened hull. Each drone carried explosives and hacking modules designed to disrupt the enemy's systems from within. Alien engineers struggled to contain the damage as the drones moved through corridors, disabling weapon nodes and communications. "Captain," Kale said, "they are starting to panic. Ships are retreating from the center." "Your plan is working." Ilara allowed herself a small smile. "Then keep pushing. We are only halfway there." Meanwhile, across the galaxy, oppressed alien populations had begun to notice the lone human warship. Species that had lived in fear of Zorthak's empire saw hope for the first time in centuries. Signals of encouragement and support, small but significant, reached the Aegis as these oppressed civilizations offered minor assistance: supply caches, navigational data, and secret intelligence. Humans had become more than fighters. They were symbols of resistance. Back on the bridge, Ilara studied the view screen. Zorthak's flagship still loomed large, its core reactor threatening to unleash destruction. But the relic aboard the Aegis pulsed brighter than ever, resonating with the enemy ship's energy. "We're in position," Kale said. "Shall we proceed?" Ilara's hands hovered over the controls. This was the moment everything depended on. One miscalculation could destroy the Aegis and end humanity's chance to survive. She took a deep breath. "Do it," she said. The human ship surged forward, the relic releasing a concentrated pulse of energy. It struck the flagship's core, destabilizing the reactor. Lights flickered across the Triumvirian vessels as alarms screamed through the network. Systems failed, weapons went offline, and the once-perfect fleet descended into chaos. Zorthak roared in fury, his voice echoing across the void. "How? How is this possible? One human, one ship!" Ilara's voice was calm, steady, and full of determination. "Because humans never give up. We survive, we fight, and we never stop believing in what is right." The flagship shuddered as the core destabilized. Explosions rocked the interior, and Zorthak's personal guards struggled to maintain control. The drones Ilara had deployed moved with precision, targeting vital systems. Within moments, the flagship's engines failed, leaving it vulnerable and drifting. "Core destabilizing further," Kale reported. "It won't hold much longer." Ilara nodded. "Prepare for the final strike. Target the reactor. End this." The Aegis moved in closer, weaving through the chaos of retreating ships. Beams of energy struck the reactor directly, and the flagship erupted in a controlled detonation. Shockwaves rippled through the enemy fleet, damaging ships, disabling weapons, and forcing the rest of the fleet to retreat. Zorthak's voice cracked with anger over the communications network. "This cannot be!" Ilara pressed her hand against the console. "It can, and it is!" The alien warlord had been defeated, for now. His fleet scattered into the void, leaving the humans and their allies in control of the central star systems for the first time in centuries. The bridge of the Aegis was quiet. The crew stared at the view screen, exhausted but alive. The relic's energy faded, leaving the ship and crew shaken but unbroken. They had done the impossible. One human ship had struck fear into the heart of an empire and changed the course of the war. "Ilara," Kale said softly, We did it." She allowed herself a small smile, though her eyes remained vigilant. "We have survived, Kale. But the galaxy is not safe yet. Zorthak may be gone, but others will rise. We must be ready." The crew nodded. They had seen the power of human courage and ingenuity. They had witnessed what one determined ship could accomplish. And they knew that as long as humans were willing to fight, the galaxy had a chance. In the darkness of space, among the ruins of destroyed fleets, the Aegis drifted onward. It was a small ship in a vast galaxy, but it carried the hope of billions. Humans had struck back against impossible odds, and their legend was only beginning. The second part of the story ended with triumph and tension. The enemy flagship was destroyed, Zorthak's forces retreated, but the galaxy was still dangerous. The Aegis and its crew had proven humanity could fight back, inspire hope, and survive against impossible odds. The next part would take the story to its climax, the final confrontation with Zorthak, and the ultimate demonstration of human ingenuity and courage that would change the galaxy forever. The galaxy was quiet for the first time in centuries. The war-torn sectors still glimmered with the lights of distant stars, but many systems were silent, their planets scarred and empty. Among this silence, the human warship Aegis moved steadily, a lone beacon of determination and hope. Captain Ilara Voss stood on the bridge, her gaze fixed on the stars, knowing the peace was temporary. Zorthak had been defeated in part, but the warlord was still alive. Somewhere, hidden, he was plotting his revenge. "We have received signals from surviving fleets," Lieutenant Kale said. "They are retreating, but Zorthak is regrouping. We may face him again." Ilara nodded. "We expected nothing less. Prepare the crew for the final confrontation. This ends with us, or not at all." The crew moved quickly, their actions precise. Humans were few in number, but every person aboard the Aegis knew their role in the fight for survival. They checked systems, loaded weapons, and ensured the relic's energy core was stable. The ancient alien device pulsed quietly in the cargo bay, awaiting its role in the coming battle. "Ilara," Kale said, studying the star charts. "Zorthak's fleet is massing near the Tempest Nebula. It is heavily defended. They know we are coming." "That is perfect," she replied. "They will expect a frontal attack. We will give them something different." The Aegis jumped into the Tempest Nebula, its stealth systems hiding it among the dense clouds of gas and debris. Zorthak's fleet, confident and arrogant, scanned the nebula but found nothing. The humans had learned a lesson long ago. Creativity and strategy could defeat numbers. As they moved deeper, the relic aboard the Aegis began to resonate. Its energy interacted with the nebula, amplifying the ship's cloaking field and rendering it nearly invisible. Ilara's plan was bold. She would infiltrate the center of Zorthak's fleet and strike directly at his flagship, the command heart of the Empire. "Crew," she said, her voice calm but firm, "we may not survive this mission, but humanity's spirit will. Stay focused. Trust each other. We can do this." The crew nodded, determination shining in their eyes. They knew this was more than a battle. It was a test of what humans could achieve when faced with impossible odds. The fleet's outer patrols passed without incident, thanks to the clever use of decoys and careful timing. Then, the Aegis entered the heart of the enemy formation. Zorthak's flagship loomed ahead, massive and foreboding, surrounded by dozens of escort ships. The battle was inevitable. "Ilara," Kale whispered. "We are detected. Shields are locking on." Ilara smiled faintly. "Good. Let them see us. Let them think they are about to win." Energy blasts screamed past the ship as it advanced, but the Aegis's shields held. Using rapid maneuvers and unconventional angles, the ship avoided the majority of enemy fire. Then, with precise timing, it released the relic's energy pulse. The device emitted a wave that disrupted the enemy ship's targeting systems, creating openings. "Fire everything at the flagship's reactor," Ilara commanded. The Aegis's weapons unleashed a storm of energy beams, missiles, and focused plasma blasts. The flagship shook as its shields flickered and faltered, but Zorthak was not yet defeated. The warlord emerged on the view screen, his presence massive and terrifying. "Humans," he growled, "you dare challenge me again? This ends now." Ilara met his gaze. "No, Zorthak. This is where it ends for you, and it is where humanity rises." Using the chaos caused by the relic, the Aegis launched a squadron of drones designed to board the flagship. Each drone carried precision explosives and hacking modules capable of infiltrating the enemy systems. They moved with speed and accuracy, disabling weapons and communications, spreading confusion among the alien crews. The flagship shuddered violently. Fires erupted along its corridors. Alien crews panicked as their once perfect systems failed one by one. Zorthak bellowed in rage, unable to stop the destruction from within. "Ilara," Kale said, "the core is exposed. We can strike it directly now." Ilara's eyes gleamed. "Prepare for final strike. This is the moment humanity shows its strength." The Aegis surged forward, weaving through enemy fire with precision. The relic's energy pulsed again, creating a protective field around the ship and amplifying its weapon's destructive power. Energy beams struck the flagship's core, igniting a chain reaction within its reactor. The massive vessel shook violently as explosions tore through its structure. "Core destabilizing!" Kyle shouted. "It's going to blow!" "Ilara, we need to get out of range," another officer called. "Hold steady," Ilara replied. "We will not leave until the enemy is defeated." The Aegis released a series of decoys and booster pulses, moving at impossible speed as the flagship erupted in a massive explosion. The shockwave tore through the surrounding fleet, destroying enemy ships and scattering survivors. Zorthak's flagship was gone, along with his command forces. The Triumvirian Empire's fleet had been shattered. For a moment, the bridge of the Aegis was silent. The crew stared at the void, stunned by what they had accomplished. Against impossible odds, a single human ship had struck down an empire's heart and saved billions of lives across the galaxy. "Ilara," Kale said, his voice filled with awe, "you did it. We did it." She nodded, though her eyes remained vigilant. "This is only the beginning. The galaxy is free for now, but humans must lead the rebuilding. We have shown that courage, ingenuity, and determination can defeat even the greatest threats." News of the human victory spread across the stars. Planets that had lived under fear for generations began to rise, inspired by what one ship and one crew had accomplished. Humans were no longer seen as weak or insignificant. Across the galaxy, species that had lost hope now believed that survival and even triumph was possible. In the aftermath, the Aegis became a symbol. Humans were remembered not for their size, but for their intelligence, creativity, and unbreakable spirit. Captain Ilara Voss was celebrated not just as a military leader, but as a beacon of hope and resilience. Yet, even with the victory, Ilara knew the galaxy would never be completely safe. New threats would emerge. But humanity had proven a vital lesson. When courage, ingenuity, and hope combined, no force, no matter how powerful, could stop them. The crew worked to repair the Aegis and aid the survivors. Together, humans and their new allies began rebuilding. Star systems once lost were slowly reclaimed, trade routes reopened, communication networks restored, and planets began to thrive once again. Ilara stood on the bridge, gazing at the stars. "We have changed the galaxy," she whispered. "One ship, one crew, one choice. Humanity will endure." The stars shone brighter now, reflecting the determination of a species that refused to be defeated. The galaxy, once in ruins, began to heal. And humans, small but clever, resilient and brave, were at the center of its revival. Captain Ilara Voss smiled. The Aegis was battered, but unbroken. Humanity had survived the impossible, and the legend of one lone human warship would be told for generations across the stars. The galaxy was no longer a place of fear. It was a place of hope, and humanity had shown the way.